Hello, cruel world. I'm a consultant forensic psychiatrist, and this is my psychoanalysis of Vladimir Putin. I'm going to tell you about his character traits, and then I'm going to answer the questions: do I think he's a psychopath, and do I think Putin is psychotic? So what are his main character traits? Well, he's really dismissive and he justifies all his actions. So, for example, he's described the Ukrainian government people as terrorists. He says they're drug addicts and he says that they're like neo-Nazis, which is quite ironic considering what the Nazis did and what he's doing in the Ukraine. He also said that Ukrainians literally don't exist, that they have no legitimacy as a people, and therefore he's kind of indirectly justifying murdering them. The other thing that really stands out about me is he's so sort of dominant and controlling. He just threatens everybody. He's very sort of petulant. He's like a little kid that throws his toys out of the pram. So, for example, Finland and Sweden had recently considered joining NATO due to Russia's actions, and he actually made direct threats against those countries. The other thing about Putin is that I think he's very arrogant and he's very petulant. He's also quite entitled, and there's a lot of victimization. So to him, he's not doing anything wrong and he's justifying his actions. It's the whole world acting against him. And he loves sort of showing off his strength to the world. So he doesn't use charm, which is relevant, as I'll come to, about whether he's a psychopath or not. He just uses a show of strength and domination. The other thing about Putin is he's very egocentric. So he thinks the whole world revolves around him. Everybody has to buy into his ideology. Everyone has to think in the same way that he does. And he's also quite narcissistic. So narcissistic is not quite exactly the same as egocentric, although there's a big crossover. Narcissistic is about, it's about loving yourself. So for example, he tells stories about how he, wrestles bears to the death, and he has pictures of him riding around on horses topless. As it happens, I actually have wrestled more than one bear to death, and I do drive around in my mini metro topless, but it's not my fault if I've got great pecs. He's clearly quite paranoid. So Putin's written an essay that he published himself in a 𝐘𝐵𝐿 website. And he has kind of insinuated that Ukrainians and Russians are one people, kind of ironic, I know, and that it's outside foreign forces that are trying to break up this holy matrimony. So, it's everybody else's fault. He's comes from a very paranoid position. I think almost all of the character traits that I've described are kind of perpetuated by the company he keeps. So he surrounds himself with yes men, and also he kind of bullies the rest of his country into being like yes men as well. So they feed into his narcissism. And because he never gets any negative feedback and nobody challenges his way of thinking, it helps continue his kind of cycle of paranoid narcissism. Okay, let me just explain why I've made this video, because you can't obviously escape what's the news stories with what's going on with Russia and Putin, but also because a number of people in the comment section have reached out, and also people at work have been asking me my opinions. So that's why I am sprouting all of this beautiful, beautiful knowledge. Okay, let's get some interesting questions. So do I think that Putin is a psychopath? The answer is no, and I'll come back to why. I think that Putin probably does have an element of antisocial personality disorder. So somebody with that disorder, as you'll know if you watch my channel, is impulsive, aggressive, doesn't care about the rights or doesn't care about the welfare or well-being of other people, doesn't care about the law, and doesn't learn from their mistakes. So I think Putin is all of those things. However, I don't think he's a psychopath, because a psychopath is all of those things, plus it's more. It's using charm and manipulation to trick other people into your mindset. And Putin doesn't do that. He's not sophisticated enough to be a psychopath. He just uses brute force. If you want to know more about psychopaths, I've done an entire series on them. Check them out on my channel. Last question, is he psychotic? So the term psychotic often gets misused or misinterpreted quite frequently. Psychosis is stepping outside of reality. Psychotic symptoms tend to be in the form of hallucinations, such as hearing voices or seeing visual hallucinations that are not there. No evidence that Putin is either of those things. And also delusions, paranoid delusions. Now, I think at a stretch it could be argued that some of his beliefs are delusional, And some of them are certainly bizarre. So, for example, I think in his essay he wrote that he believes that all Ukrainian people and Russian people have kind of are ancestors of one particular royal family. So there's a lot of bizarreness in there. But in my personal and professional opinion, I don't think these are delusions. They're bizarre and they're weird, unusual ideas, but I think they're overvalued ideas. So, for example, somebody with anorexia believing they're thin, it's not a delusion, it's an overvalued idea. So it kind of makes sense in the context that they're coming from. So in his narcissistic world, where he believes he's the king, he believes he's the best, he believes he kills bears, in that context, his thoughts make sense to him, whereas delusional thoughts don't have an understandable source, if that makes sense. So what I'm trying to say is I don't think Putin is psychotic. So for example, if you gave him medication, if you tried to treat him, gave him rehabilitation, fed him full of antipsychotic medication, I don't think his beliefs would be reversed. Whew. That basically is my psychoanalysis of Putin. This is a kind of off-the-cuff, unscripted video that I just decided to do. If you're interested in the crossover between true crime, but if you like it with a twist of psychiatry, definitely go check out my other videos. I do deep dives on a range of topics. I go into a lot more detail. It's properly scripted. They're funnier, they're sharper, they're sexier, they're sleeker than this video. Go and check them out on my channel. Enjoy. Have a blessed day. Stay thymic, and whatever happens, do not forget, I love you.